Dzień dobry Państwu, zanim doproszę tutaj
Before I ask my
eurostażystów i popracujemy
the
trochę z
Euro
naszymi
trainees and
to
before we
pozwolicie
work
przygotować
with
taką
them,
krótką prezentację,
I have a
żeby
brief
było wiadomo, o czym
presentation
naprawdę
so
będziemy
that
mówić.
you know what we are going to talk about, but I'm going to need the remote. All right then, so international traineeship, how does it open the path to career? Well, because Erasmus Plus can fund such traineeships. I know that all such meetings at Amber Expo are about mainly vocational education, but I also like to show the other sectors because Erasmus Plus covers 6 different sectors, and the entities that tap into VET, they can also use other sectors. For example, young people, they can do bottom-up projects, grassroots projects. You can also look into primary, secondary education. Vocational training is done usually by school complexes, and teachers of general subjects are entitled to traveling. We also have lifelong learning centers for vocational training, and these entities can tap into adult education, and we have traineeships for university graduates. They may they are graduates of vocational schools, and they can follow on to universities and colleges, or they can use the programs at that stage. There's a complexity there at Erasmus. For priorities in all our projects, we make sure to always emphasize that inclusivity is important. Green approach, developing digital skills, and also active participation in civic life, agency, promoting democracy, promoting learning about our cultural heritage, civic involvement, knowledge about the EU. And this is very important in this sector because here we have various types of students, people who may be prone to listening to fake news, not always aware of what's going on in society. That is worth emphasizing, therefore. And you can basically go to any country, mainly EU member states, associated countries, candidate countries. And also outside of the EU, that's what you can do. There's more and more mobility of teachers to China. There's more and more of that. But there are other countries as well. If you have such contacts and such partners, we encourage you to go also beyond the EU and tap into the experience of other cultural contexts and other educational contexts. If you've never yet applied to us, please remember that if you work in vocational education, you don't have to be a vocational school, but you can also apply. Even self-employed people, sole proprietors, as long as you have your own students or trainees, or you work with vocational schools to do projects as part of a consortium. Our participants, these are usually people who are learning, students, but also a learning person is not just a student of a vocational school. It can be someone who learns from an employer in crafts, for example. Dual education is included, so we have such members as well. Of course, the staff, the teaching staff, the faculty, but not just in schools, there are trainers, vocational trainers, all kinds of experts who are mentors and do training. That is very important for people, especially who are preparing students for competitions. And there are, for example, you can get funding for trips to such competitions, not just international traineeships. There's this opportunity, not everyone remembers about it. We keep getting analyzed. We have an analytical team in our foundation, and they keep keep doing tests on our participants, they send out surveys, and we are in constant touch with the organizations that run projects in our sector. At this point, we are carrying out a study on the influence of mobility on the development of vocational education system in Poland. We know that it may be a little difficult to study, but we do our best. We tested 200 schools in Poland, more or less. We work with other countries which have a similar experience of changing the political systems. Hungary, Czechia, Latvia. There are the other participants. So the questions were asked to head teachers of vocational schools. So that's what I got yesterday. Just yesterday, I got the responses that I'd like to share. First, do you agree that international traineeships have a positive influence on educational and career paths of previous participants? You can see that the very positive response here. So it's not just the individual dimension, but also in terms of how organizations develop schools, improving the image of schools in the local educational market. These are also important benefits in traineeships. Another question. The teachers of those schools, how do they evaluate the skills of their students? And there are two questions there. How they evaluate the skills and competencies of the graduates who participated and those who didn't participate in those trips. And you can see this greatest disparity between those two groups. Language skills, career skills and cultural competences. So they are very closely connected to mobility. All the schools had a very favorable impression. ICT is maybe the least diverse. There's just 1 percentage point difference. We need to improve that too. And the final question, to what degree do you agree that these traineeships have a positive influence on greater engagement in making schools international? And you can see that there's big competition. It's very difficult to take part in those projects all the time. So because the answer is not quite satisfactory here. If we had more funds, we would probably do more with that. Although 60 million euros is how much we spent last year, and my team does all the clicking to accept the payments. It's quite a lot of money. Before I give the floor over to our Euro trainees, I'd like to tell those of you who have not yet applied or would like to learn more about our program, apart from the Europass that you are probably familiar with, they invited us here to this forum. Please remember that there is a ePale platform, a very good tool to increase the knowledge about European education. School Education Gateway. There's another platform that is quite a good resource for school education. Twinning. If you don't decide to go abroad, you can always do projects remotely. Our Facebook page, we promote it on every meeting. We have over 1,000 followers. We would like to have more, so please find us. If you want to learn more, there's a video on YouTube. There's a QR code for you there. And now it's a good time to invite Daria and Kamil, our Euro trainees, Daria Szczepankiewicz, Kamil Orzechowski. Please put your hands together to encourage them.
Weźcie sobie mikrofony.
Please take a microphone and check if they work.
Super, działa.
That's great.
Może tak w żołnierskim skrócie się przedstawcie. Jak się nazywa?
Please introduce yourselves briefly.
Gdzie się teraz uczycie?
Where you are now studying, where you went for your traineeship, what kind of profession? Daria Szczepankiewicz. I come from Konin, the city of Konin in Poland. My Erasmus trip was to Spain, in Granada. So right now I work with children as a choreographer and dancer.
Super, czyli
Great.
zaczynałaś
So you
w
started
programie edukacyjnym,
your
jesteś
career path in an educational program, and now you're an educator yourself, right? Kamil Orzechowski from the city of Częstochowa. I went to Warsaw to study. I study at the Warsaw University of Technology. I do programming and cybersecurity on a daily basis. And I went to Spain and Portugal under Erasmus.
Jak to w ogóle się zaczęło?
Well, how did it even begin
Żeby wyjechać?
that you decided to go for that traineeship? To me, it started in middle school. Two people from Erasmus came and told us about Erasmus. And that's when I became fascinated. In the technical school, they offered a trip for me to go for a traineeship in Granada. I immediately agreed without a thought. It was a little stressful, but these memories will stay with me for a long, long time.
To wyglądało mniej więcej w taki sposób, że starszy brat
The elder brother of a friend from school went to the same technical school, and he put up posts from that trip. So that's how we got interested. And then the next year, I managed to go, and then I liked it, and I went once again the next day. So you went twice, right, for traineeship? Yes, I did.
po 2 tygodnie wyjechać.
Twice for 2 weeks. I had traineeship there.
Trudno w ogóle się było dostać na
Was it difficult to get there to successfully apply? What was the recruitment like? Well, we as fourth graders, we had priority. People from the parallel grades, younger than me, because I was in the kind of education that included middle school as well. So, there was people who were after the primary school had to qualify. There were tests, and many people did manage to get in.
U mnie wyglądało to tak, że jest
Well,
rekrutacja.
there was recruitment. There was, a list of grades and achievements. The first time I was in a competition for a wild card, and the second time I had this sufficient grades. A wild card, what was that about?
Był to konkurs zorganizowany.
It was a competition.
2 takie miejsca.
I think there are 2 such places.
Zorganizowane dla osób, które
The competition was organized for people who had lower grades,
jakieś umiejętności,
had some skills,
czyli na przykład konkursowe i tak dalej.
maybe in some other competitions, and activity in school life and extracurricular activities.
Żeby była możliwość
And
nadal pojechania na posiadanie jakiejś właśnie
so they
bardzo
could go even if they didn't have very high grades.
tylko tak, że
So it's not like only straight A students will be able to go, but
super.
if you have extra skills, you can go too. That's great. That's a great recruitment approach. Now, once you went for your traineeships
Już do swoich miejsc.
and you came to your locations
Te zakłady,
and you saw the companies, what were your first impressions,
pierwsza myśl, która się pojawiła.
your first thought on the first day? I think to begin with, it was just stress.
Może, że się nie dogadamy.
That perhaps we might not really come to terms together with the employers, but hour after hour, it all started getting better and better. And that traineeship was one of the better ones I had.
Moje pierwsze praktyki
My first traineeship,
warsztat komputerowy.
that was a computer workshop,
Jak tam
ICT workshop.
chyba w trójkę.
When we went there, I think there were 3 of us there.
Wchodzimy i widzimy, że
So we came in and we saw a mess, kind of, something chaotic. We weren't sure if it was even the right place, the right thing, but the owner greeted us, said what it was all about. We immediately caught on. We started we had the same language, and it was a very relaxed approach. He showed me how to solder and fix the motherboards, and I never expected that because it wasn't exactly part of our duties.
od siebie.
He did it just like that, just as an extra.
Można powiedzieć,
So we might say that you went outside of your comfort zone, right? At those internships, traineeships. If we were to give some advice to people who are afraid, who think that they would never dare go, what would you say? How do you open to that? Don't be afraid, really. I was stressed at the beginning too.
I ten stres był tak
And the stress was really unnecessary. Now looking back and thinking about how stressed out I was,
nie, naprawdę
it's just, you don't need to do that. Young people really need to try. That is one of the best decisions you can take in life. It was for me. And many people will definitely agree with me here. Kamil, will you agree? I do agree. All right then.
Tak, czyli to jest taka rada też w ogóle.
Okay, so that's advice for you as well. Erasmus is not just for students, it's also for teachers who are involved in vocational education training. If you want to go, just don't be afraid. That's the advice.
W tym projekcie Euro Apprenticeship,
So
który realizujemy
you take part in the Europe Apprenticeship project.
wśród osób, które brały udział w stażu.
And that is for people who
nominuje
participated in
z
traineeships.
puli byłych uczestników stażu nominuje ambasadorów programu.
The former participants of traineeships are nominated to be ambassadors to promote professional mobility. What does this part of your activity looks like as ambassadors?
Możesz zacząć.
Jest to...
Well, Kamil says, first it's showing to basically young people,
Tak naprawdę na przykład uczniom podstawówki
even primary school students, showing them that there is the possibility of having traineeships
szkoła, do
to go elsewhere to see whether the school they would like to apply is within the range of their interests
możliwości albo
and check whether they will be able to achieve this place in a school. They can check whether there is a program for them or maybe that's possibility to have that program organized for themselves. So it's really worth going to such placements or traineeships, and we are trying to explain to our colleagues to make the programs attractive to those who are considering, who are pondering, but are not sure whether to go or not. Yes, indeed, the girl says.
ostatnio właśnie byłam
Many
na-
people, when I was at the school, our school's open days, many people even didn't know that we have such things as 4 international traineeships based on Erasmus agenda. And I told the people, and many of my colleagues decided to enroll, to go to my school
doświadczenia.
and just follow the possibility of the experience, which is a very good experience. It's really worthwhile.
Mamy stoisko na dole
We have our stand downstairs, close to the stage,
dotyczące naszych projektów.
and it shows our projects in the VAT sector. And next to us is Euro interns stand as well. It's not only Camila, and it's only Camille and his friends. So if you came with your pupils, with the students, because I know that part of our audience is teachers, we do encourage you to go there, talk to the people, because it's better to
Się czegoś dowiedzieć.
sometimes, well, it's better to have the direct conversation to learn things about the internships for a person who knows, who has the experience. Question: how did your traineeships change your lives?
To jest takie doświadczenie.
Is it the experience for the whole life, or just a short
Doświadczenie na całe życie.
blink of an eye? Answer: well, it's a lifelong experience, because I was a very shy person, unnecessarily stressful, and the Erasmus, which I spent during my secondary school in Spain, opened the perspective to me to become open to new experience. So now my placements, I've got already three Euro apprentices 3 times. Now I am open because it means meeting new people, integration, workshops,
Zmienia to
many things that change you as a person for the better, positive things. Tell us where you were. Because you said you were already 3 times. First, it was Prague in 2020 in Czech Republic, then Azores 2023, and now in May this year I was in Bucharest in Romania. And what about you, Kamil?
Tam cię z jednego wyjazdu.
I can remember you from one of our trips. Yes,
do Belgii, do
I managed to go to Antwerp in Belgium and visit the Euro Parliament. And I have recently met a team for Euro apprentices from the Czech Republic and Slovakia in the High Tatra Mountains. Yes, you can see all these things at our Instagram and starting yesterday also TikTok. Yes, I was just about to say that we have just launched our TikTok account and I can see that there's plenty of TikTokers in this room. If you are not a member, have the application installed on your machines and visit the place often. Yes, we are going to be very active on TikTok. Any questions? We've got some time. Okay, if there's a question, I'll go to you with the mic.
Ja chciałam zapytać Darię,
I'd like to ask Daria,
gdzie się kształciłaś w takim
what was your training in the secondary vocational? Sorry, my school was the grammar vocational school in the field of Horeca,
Wyjazd na Erasmusa. to
and my Erasmus trip was to a hotel.
tutaj Kamil.
And Kamil, you said about the place in which you had your traineeship. What was it like with you? And you, Daria? I was not astonished because I really wanted to go to Spain. I was very happy, although a bit anxious.
Naprawdę bardzo
Granada
piękna
is
i
wonderful, is beautiful.
naprawdę nigdy nie sądziłam, że tam przyjadę.
I never thought I would visit the place. Maybe Barcelona, but Granada, Andalusia, magnificent, fantastic
Czy
place.
ktoś jeszcze z Państwa?
Anybody else?
Pytanie?
Any
Ostatnia
question?
szansa.
Last chance, last opportunity. Yep.
To ja przejmę ten mikrofon.
Okay,
Państwo
I will
mają
hold the
jakieś
mic.
pytania?
Any questions from you?
To ja może zadam pytanie.
So let me ask the question myself.
Czy czujecie, że
Do you feel
wasz odbytu w
that
Polsce
your traineeship, were it in, had it in Poland, your traineeship in Poland would have been different than abroad? Answer, yes. I had a 1-month traineeship in Poland on the sea, and it changed my perspective of the view, how I view
pracy w Polsce?
Pracy w Polsce.
working in Poland.
Moim zdaniem
And I think that both
i teraz
my visit to the Polish Sea as well as the Erasmus can be compared, but I think that Erasmus was better because I have
miałam, ale
even nicer memories. I had good memories from the Polish Sea visit, but Erasmus was really, really, really nice.
No i w Polsce
Kamil,
jeszcze 3 staże.
I had 3 traineeships in Poland, not linked to Erasmus, but I can see the big difference between Erasmus program and other.
Zgłosił i jest
So if you apply for Erasmus, you reveal that you are eager to learn.
może nie
In
wszędzie,
Poland, maybe not everywhere, but some places
upychanie
where it is just
firmy
pushing many people to one business, one company, and the people are just given task, do this, this, and that in Poland, and nobody is willing to show more, to go beyond the minimum.
Pozwolę sobie może jeszcze dodać, że
Let me add
oczywiście może zastąpić
that Erasmus can really replace domestic traineeships. It's 50-50 as for the Polish school in terms of obligatory traineeships.
stażu w kraju i
We talked to students to compare foreign and domestic traineeships.
I rzeczywiście
And indeed,
branże, gdzie te różnice
there were some branches, some fields which were in favor for Erasmus. This was the Horeca area, hotels, tourism, customer service in gastronomical area.
w Polsce nikt
In
nie da
Poland,
uczniom.
nobody would give seafood to a pupil to learn how to manage this to customers. In Italy, you can do it.
nas uczyli
Daria, yes, I must admit that the mode of training was different on the Polish Sea and in Erasmus internships, so there is a difference.
Dopytał, czy dalszą karierę
Can I ask you, do you plan to develop develop your professional career in Spain, or are you patriotic people and prefer to stay here? This is the question of the brain, of the drainage of brains. It's a question to both of you.
Ja obecnie właśnie korzystając z tego, że przeprowadzimy się
Well,
do Warszawy, mam właśnie bardzo
using the opportunity that I live in Warsaw, now I've got plenty of job and networking opportunities,
zdalną, choć
which is also the possibility of remote work.
właśnie myślę, że aktualnie
So I believe that at the moment I rather, because I also link studying and working professionally, so I prefer to stay Poland. Daria also says, yes, me too. And what about your purely theoretical training, comparing the level of Polish education and foreign? Did you feel well prepared, better prepared, or did you feel that you missed something?
Że miałam fantastycznych nauczycieli.
I must say that my teachers here in Poland, professional teachers, were fantastic. I was really theoretically well prepared, but there was a difference in the methods of teaching professional subjects. It was different in Spain,
Podobnie było w sumie.
but overall it was similar.
no, informatyka jest trochę zbyt
For me,
szeroka, żeby
the computer science is too wide an area to
pracę
adjust the work you do and the training you have, because every time I ran across different things, not necessarily strictly related to the subject of my school teaching, but I always met a person who could develop me within a given field, give me some experience, share experience with me. University of Zielona Góra. I am an expert, Iwet. Thank you very much. Question to the leader of this: do you make surveys among people who visit Poland for Erasmus, for their traineeships, their replacements? Did you ask them how they feel in Poland, how they value our support? Answer: sorry, we are not dealing with such people. We don't have contact with them, so I am not able to answer the question, because RODO's restrictions do not permit us to do it.
z danego kraju rzeczywiście
So we are not able to make surveys among foreigners. We tried to learn how Polish traineeships are valued by people from abroad. We asked several institutions dealing as mediators in this field, but unfortunately we are not the target country as, say, the south of Europe.
chociaż jesteśmy rzeczywiście
Even if we are relatively cheap as for the living standards, we are expensive in terms of servicing this, the practice traineeship itself. And people from abroad do not see much added value for traineeships in Poland. But I hope we will be able to change it if we invest in this matter. We are opening new centers, skill centers, and I hope this will be the opportunity to have the foreign traineeships, more traineeships in Poland. At the moment, it's not so yet, so I cannot answer your question.
Natomiast jeżeli chodzi o studentów,
But as for the students themselves who come to Poland,
nie mam takich danych.
I don't have the concrete, precise data because it's not my sector, but I know that the students who come to have their traineeships under Erasmus, because Erasmus also offers traineeships for academic level students, so if they want to practice their mobility, so overall, foreign students are happy to have stayed in Poland. There are many from them. The more Italian or Spanish students we had, the further then the more professional people seek jobs in Poland. Maybe it's also related to the unemployment rate in those countries. Any other questions? I think that we have finished with the question answer. Any conclusion? Yes. I would like to thank Kamil and Daria to be courageous to appear on stage. It was only a few days ago that I had the idea that if we have some trainees here. So I thank you, and I believe you are very good promoters, ambassadors of the idea. Daria says, thank you very much too.